So we know Hitler wasn't right ultimately because look what happened. But we know Jesus was right because for 1,000 years after he was crucified, the majority of Europe by number operated that way. It's not really covered in the history books because they don't want you to know. But for that, they call it the Dark Ages because, there's nothing to see here, obviously. But the majority of Europe ran by free will offerings, by charity from villages and villages to valleys, and they helped each other out. And not everybody did. Some people went under, gangsters and kings like, Charlemagne and others that popped up. But that wasn't the majority of Europe, okay? The foundation of Europe was built on the liberty that followed the crucifixion of Christ for 1,000 years. That's what the wealth of Europe was built on, okay? And by the time about 1000 AD rolled around, Europe had that foundation of wealth that had built up over 1,000 years. Okay, and then, the Doomsday Book came in 1066 and the people were taxed, and then it was all downhill from there. It took a while, but you can see what we have today. This is the end of the road. And the only reason it failed is because the people forgot by apathy the way of Christ, as far as they forgot the way, they forgot what got them to that place, and they started accepting the benefits that were coming from the king. If they all banded together and stopped it, they could have done it at that time, but they forgot their way, and the only thing that can stop the way of Christ is the people that don't do or don't continue to do what he says. No other force can come against it. That's the nature of the kingdom. That's the nature of the way. Okay, so the point of this talk is that we don't win this war by flesh and blood. We don't try and fight this with guns and bullets because the parasite knows the answer or how to fight that particular attack. What we do is what Jesus said and dissolve into a network of tens, hundreds and thousands that cannot be controlled. There's no central control. You see, it's all decentralized, so you can't put your finger on it. Okay, the networks are bound by love. They're not bound by force. There's no contracts. It's just relationships of people that know each other, that look after each other. And that was the way that Jesus and Moses before him and Abraham before him were talking about. That cannot be defeated. The only way it can fail is if the people reject God and fail to do what Jesus said. Okay, that's the only way it can be defeated. It's just too decentralized. So that's what we work on at Preparing You. And it's pretty simple, and it's actually happening. It's happening already. It's just something you need to investigate because if you don't, what happens is the parasite ultimately kills the host. And when the host dies, there's everyone else that's a part of the host, and even the parasite itself dies. That's the tragedy of the situation, and that's what we see happening right now. And if you don't look at alternatives, you might find yourself wanting for certain things that may not be available that are now, that come from the government or just opportunities or even the money supply or just anything. We've just got to be ready for anything. I'm not saying it's going to fall apart this year or next year or in 5 years or 10 years, but sooner or later it will. You can see, and for some people it already has. For some people, the world has nothing for them because they realise they can just see a bit further into the future. And for those type of people that are looking for an alternative, don't go the way of Hitler or these people that, they might have good intentions, but, don't have the wisdom to know that forming another centralised government is just the wrong idea. You've got to go right back down to the root, which is the freedom and liberty of the individual within a society. And the only way to achieve that is by free will offerings, otherwise known as charity. The society must be built on faith, hope, and charity. And it's right there in the Bible. So go to Preparing You and investigate. There's entire articles about this. Go there and check it out, and you'll understand where I'm coming from. And until next time, peace.